Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Good morning. Let's give a chance for everybody to get here. And Lisa, it is showing on YouTube, so yay. All right, let me go to chat. And Lisa, are you on chat? There we
Yes.
go. Hi,
Marie
Marianne.
and
Can you?
Marianne.
Oh, hi, Marie. Can you guys pop into chat? Let us know that you can hear us okay. And let me turn my sound way down on this thing. All right.
Oops,
Marie,
sorry.
can you hear us okay? Hi guys, CJ Walden, can you hear us? Pop into chat, please. Hi
Yes, let us know.
Susan. Yeah, we've got my wonderful co-host here,
Yes,
Lisa
they
Debate.
can hear
Hi
us.
Kate Ward. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, we'll give you a
Yay.
few. Anne is here. Wonderful guys. This is great. Yay, Marianne. Thank you for letting us know because sound is a big issue. You know, even if the picture is not so great, thank you so much for letting us know. I don't know if you guys have icons or, like little emojis or not. Probably not. Yeah, I guess maybe on YouTube you do. Hi, Leslie. Hi, Shiloh. Lynn here again, Hennigan. Carol's here. Carol Lawrence. Yeah, you guys, we're going to be making this kind of a regular thing on Mondays. I'm hoping Lisa will be able to join me, but she is taking precious time out of her Monday morning, and she's an hour earlier than me. So, you guys, I'll give Lisa a big thank you.
Woohoo. I'm here though. Woohoo. I figured out how to get me on there.
Exactly. Okay, guys, we'll be getting started really shortly here. So Lisa, I just hit chat overlay, but I'm going to actually, as long as you can see your chat, I'm going to make mine minimal. Is that
Okay,
okay?
I can see it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yay.
Everybody's saying hello. And Marianne, hand pinky waving. I can't figure out how to do emojis myself. So we'll have to work on
Ah,
figuring that out.
hi, Tamara. And let's see here. Hello from Holland, Elska, Shiloh, and Bonnie. Great, guys. Wonderful to see you. And this is Monday morning, and my brain typically doesn't work very well on Monday mornings. And I even do have my coffee. So I'm hoping that I did enough organization over the weekend so that, with Lisa's help, by the way, she was with me all weekend.
We worked hard, didn't we?
In case you're wondering, there's some new tech involved here, so we're prepared for just about anything, and so that's why your feedback is always very, very helpful.
Sorry,
There she is.
I'm figuring these things out. So excuse my
Yeah,
little bit of playing.
yeah. So okay, guys, we're typically going to get started on time, and we realize that people will be coming on as we move through. But I wanted to just explain that um, I like to be doing these lives on a Monday morning because Mondays typically are not my most active day. And so if anybody else had like whatever you think about Mondays, just pop it in chat. Like, are Mondays your favorite day? Are Mondays your big art day? Because for me, it's like I just have to get things in motion. So part of why I'm doing this live is to get things in motion. And I want to take you guys with me and let's all go in motion together. And today I'm doing a demo. Okay, so today what I'm doing is basically automatic drawing. And I've talked about this wonderful book by Stephen Imoni. It's right here. Okay, and I know it's out of print, right? So you can go on Amazon or eBay, and if you luck out, you might get a copy. But don't worry, because if I do a demo here, and certainly in the Art and Success Pro membership group, we're really doing much more than I'll ever do on YouTube. But in any case, this is the book that I will be working from this morning. Let me read to you what it says about automatic drawing, because today's demo is about automatic drawing, and I'm going to be doing it in two different mediums. And the reason for that is simply because I'm a great believer that the way that I paint, anyways, it's not about the medium, it's about whatever you think about design. Design is always like king. And then the techniques and mediums, and you can work in 5 mediums or 10 mediums. It's still just one you. But the way to make you look like you in all 10 mediums is to truly understand the principles and elements of design, because that's your vocabulary. And so once you understand your vocabulary, it doesn't matter what medium you're working in. So less emphasis on the medium and much more emphasis on let's just paint and make it as personal as possible. So in this book, for those of you who have it, I'm looking at page 24, okay? I'm just going to read a little paragraph about what automatic drawing is according to Stephen Imoni, because he is the author of this wonderful book. The idea in itself was a simple one: to draw with no plan, no purchase, no conscious control, to begin generating line and mark in a seemingly random fashion. Those early modernists believed that this kind of drawing could reveal levels of awareness and meaning impossible to divine in any other way. In essence, they advocated de-emphasizing the role of the conscious mind so that a different level of intelligence, subconscious or unconscious, could emerge. This kind of intelligence, they felt, could make the invisible visible or give form to the formless. So you might just think that what these examples are may look like doodling to you, right? But actually, these are examples of automatic drawing, as well as on the cover, automatic drawing. Let me show you some more examples here. This is a Jackson Pollock. Okay. And then I'll just give you a few other examples here. Here are students of Stevens doing automatic drawing. So as you can see, it doesn't really, it's not a question of you guys having like a value sketch, or you've done something in your sketchbook and you're like, okay, I'm going to sit down on a Monday morning and I'm going to paint this barn. It's not like that. The idea here is kind of like a warm-up, but what I found, because my left brain often kind of likes to call the shots and hijack my right brain, which is the creative side, is I had to figure out a way to get myself into right brain mode, which is the creative side. And one of the best ways to do that is just to start drawing without any thought, without a plan, and just let it go where it's going to go. So right now, Lisa, if you can spotlight where my hand is on the page, okay, because, all right. Now, as far as chat goes, guys, I will be focusing on what I'm trying to demo, and then Lisa will be watching chat. If you guys have a big question about something I'm doing at the time, you can write in all caps question to alert Lisa to that. And she might ask me the question while I'm actually doing the demo, which is fine. And I'll say, if I can answer it, I will. But if I can't answer it, I can't imagine that I wouldn't. But anyways, we'll do it that way. And then we might take a little break, and then I'll answer more questions. So the idea is, feel free to put your questions in there, and feel free to comment as I do this. So what I have here, I'm going to be doing 2 different mediums, but I'm doing the same thing, all right? Because if I was working in oil and cold wax medium, which is what this says here, I would start my painting the very same way than if I were working in acrylic, okay? Now, there are differences, of course, but I will point those out as we go. But my process needs to be the same no matter what medium I'm working in order for me to get to love the process, right? If I love the process, I will show up a lot more in my studio than if I don't love the process. So let me just begin with, I'm going to talk about oil and cold wax medium first. And the reason for that is because, and if any of you guys are working oil and cold wax, you might want to just say yes in the chat, or, let us know how long you've been working this medium. But it is a little bit more, there's a little bit more involved, but, just a few things. So this is my palette for oil and cold wax medium, and automatic drawing is really focused on drawing, but it's also focused on mark making and, let's just say painting, right? Because it's automatic. So whether you paint, whether you draw, the idea is to not think. So the 2 words for today are to not think. And I hope a lot of you are going to be painting with me, because that's the whole idea. It doesn't matter what medium. You don't have to even be working in acrylic or oil and cold wax. But I just thought I'd do a demo in both. So real simply here, I've got my I use Gamblin's. Let's see if I can show it here. There we go. Sorry, Lisa. I don't know exactly where to point this, but I use Gamblin's cold wax. Okay, it looks like shortening, and so if you look on this gray palette here, you can see that I've got a big blob of what looks like shortening. So let me see if I can zoom in on that real quick. I just have
You're going to have to move it a bit, your camera.
I will. Right.
Yeah, there you go. Getting better. There you go.
Right. Okay, guys.
A little far down. I mean, go up a little.
Gotcha. I can actually see what's happening.
Okay, great.
Gotcha. So, guys, thank you, Lisa.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for your patience, everybody.
Yeah. Look, guys. That's how it is, right? It's like shortening. So don't ever confuse this with Crisco shortening, because that's what it looks like. So what I typically do in my studio, this is a medium, and the beauty of this medium is that if you paint with oils, which is what I'm going to be doing here this morning, you don't have to worry about, basically, I'll just say it, and I won't say much about it, but the concept of fat over lean, which has to do with, if you look at old masters paintings and they're all cracked, and they didn't know about fat over lean. They found out kind of the hard way, right? So we're learning from the masters' mistakes, and we're figuring out that we need to just, like, if we add cold wax medium, you don't have to even worry about fat over lean. So that was all for me. I didn't want to touch oils until I learned about cold wax. So this is the medium that I use. And what I'm showing you here is how I make my cold wax medium a little bit stronger, because it can be a little brittle. So just for those who are interested, and I'll try to make this really fast, I just flatten it out, and then I divide it into 4 sections. Then I add my Galkyd Gel here, which is also made by Gamblin. And I talk all about this in many videos, and as well as in my courses on how to work with cold wax medium. And my Colorful Design and Personal Color course, a lot of you are already in that or have taken it. You know that I show you a lot about this medium, but it's not about the medium. That course is about color and design. So once you've got your Galkyd Gel, now keep in mind this is a gel, which just means that it's a little stiffer, okay? It's like toothpaste. So if you're trying to add something like toothpaste to something that, like this white mass here, is a bit, thick, right? But it doesn't matter whether it's the gel or the liquid. Okay, so now you just want to mix it up like this, mix it really well. And the thing about the Galkyd Gel, there are 4 reasons why I add it to my cold wax medium. It makes when you add it to your oils, it gives strength and flexibility to your final painting. So who doesn't want strength and flexibility? At the end, it gives a very slight satiny look to it instead of like total matte. And so that can be really nice. So that's 3 things: strength, flexibility, slight satin. And the 4th thing is probably something that most people love, and that is that it speeds up the drying a little bit. Now, I'm using Galkyd Gel, but I could also be using the Galkyd liquid. There we go. Okay, so these are the same thing. It's just that one's liquid and one's like a toothpaste. So you can choose either one. It doesn't matter which one. Okay, so now that I've mixed this, I'm going to be using this all week. So what I'm going to do is leave some here because of today's demo. But then I have a tin, and I've just labeled it with this 1 to 3 GGel. Okay, it's a lid. Sorry, it's a container that can.
Sorry.
Okay, Lisa. There we go. Yeah, you're great, Lisa. You're awesome. It's a container that can hold any excess cold wax and oil medium for at least a week, if not longer, And I mean, that's an advantage because you just kind of don't want to waste this stuff. So what I do is
there are a couple of questions, Pam. Carol asked, why is the Galkyd Gel needed? And what was the ratio of Galkyd Gel to cold wax?
Yeah, 1 part of Galkyd Gel to 3 parts of cold wax medium. And I did just say there are 4 advantages, right? Strength,
Right.
flexibility, drying time, slight satin.
Okay.
All right. Okay, great. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to focus now on my palette here, right? I have squirted out some ivory black paint. Now, if you want to, couple things, don't ever go past 1:1. We're talking proportions here. You guys understand what proportions are. This is less than 1:1, right? If I just do this, I mean, that's getting close to 1:1. Can you see that? And I'm looking at this versus this. This is just black paint. Now, I'm just going to say if you wanted to work on canvas, you want to have a lot less of this. You want to have like less than 25%, but I'm going to actually go up to 1:1, and because that's what Gamblin says you can do. You're going to mix it up, all right? So that's ivory black mixed up 1:1 with my cold wax medium that has Galkyd Gel. And now it's going to dry faster. It's going to be stronger and more flexible. You know, some artists, I remember early on when I was learning this medium, they were saying, oh gosh, my painting chipped in the corner. Why is that? And I called Gamblin Colors, and because they make the products that I like to use. And they said, oh, well, if you add Galkyd Gel, you're adding strength and flexibility to your surface, right? So that's why I do it. Okay, so now that I've got this, I'm going to move all this stuff over and get it out of the way. Move this or this.
Pam, when you order your Galkyd Gel, where do you get it from? Somebody said Amazon wouldn't deliver it. So is it
Yeah, depending on where you live, okay? You know, I know Canada might have a problem. People in Australia may have a problem. So don't worry. I mean, if you're going to use cold wax medium, you don't have to add the Galkyd Gel. That is just like an extra step that I do. Not all artists do. In fact, perhaps more artists don't do it. I'm just saying that I do it because I can get it. If you can't get it, don't worry. You're not losing out on too much. However, you could use walnut alkyd. Lisa, if you can type that into chat, it's walnut, ALKYD. That would be like just as good as the Galkyd, which is from Gamblin. But, you know, don't worry too much about all this kind of stuff because, you know, I mean, I can answer questions in just a bit here. So I've got Arches oil paper. That's what I'm working on at the moment. And let me back up my camera a little bit here so that we can see a bit more.
There you go.
Okay, a little bit less. All right, so now the whole thing is automatic drawing. That's what we're doing, but I wanted to get all that stuff mixed up and get it out of the way. So how am I going to do automatic drawing on if I'm working in oil and cold wax medium? This is just Arches oil paper. My favorite surface is either Arches oil paper or an ampersand panel, which I also have one of those all set and ready to go. So I might start that one as well. For those of you who like encaustic board, here is an encaustic board, and then notice I've taped off the edges with blue tape, keeps it clean. This is the most wonderful surface that I have ever found for working with oil and cold wax medium. And I tend to have lots of sizes available ready to go because I just love the surface. So now we're gonna go back to like, how do you start your painting? And I've got here all of these things here, which I'll tell you what they are, but you have different things and it doesn't matter what it is. This is mega graphite, and this one is Conti pencil, pastel pencil. This is a maribou soft type thing. This is a charcoal stick. I've got erasers, I've got art graph, and I know you guys have a lot of the same things. A number 2 pencil from grade school. I've got a Palomino Blackwing pencil. I have my favorite is this 8046 water soluble guy. The thing about working in oil and cold wax is you don't have to worry about things that are water soluble, like art graph. Okay, so let's start with some. That's just now automatic drawing. Like what I think about is nothing. So Mondays for me plus nothing, no thought. That's a great combination, and that's why I'm here. And that's hopefully why you're here too. And I want you to be doing this with me. You could be at your kitchen table, You have either your sketchbook or just a piece of paper. I'm not thinking, I'm just, you know, think of it as kind of your Monday morning calisthenics. I'm experimenting with different things. Like what kind, how dark is this Conte Paris pastel pencil, right? And it doesn't have to be dark. It can be dark, but then it can be light. So you're not thinking, but at the same time, the guide for you can be contrast. So think about going slow, fast. Like what does a fast mark look like? What does a fast soft mark look like? And I'm not thinking, I'm just, these are prompts, right? Because sometimes we just want to like have a little bit of guidance. We're not thinking. Now this is another pencil. I'm getting a feel for what do these things do. And here's my maribou. This is a really nice juicy, it's like lipstick. And that's a fun one, right? So I wanted to start out with the dry medium because obviously you don't have to wait and let that dry. Now the thing about working oil and cold wax medium is that there is a drying time. You have to have a little bit of patience, or instead of patience, if you're not a patient person like I am not, but I want to work in cold wax and oil, here's a carpenter's pencil, then the way to get around not having a lot of patience is to have like 10 of these going at a time. So this morning I might start 10 of these. Some of them are on Orchis oil paper, some of them are on ampersand panel, doesn't matter, right? Now, so now we're gonna get into the paint part. So I've got this juicy paint, and you know, that's part of the automatic drawing process as well. So what I wanted to show you is that a lot of artists ask me, how do you work with drippy paint in cold wax and oil? And sorry, if you're an acrylic painter and you're just like waiting for me to get to the acrylic part, don't worry, that's coming soon. I just wanted to get this going so it can dry a little bit. So what I'm going to do is take some of my paint that I just mixed with cold wax medium, and I'm going to put it into this little glass jar so that I can make it more liquid, because that's what you're trying to do, right? If you want drippy paint, then this is like paste, and you want it to be more drippy. So how are you going to do that? Partly I need to use my silicone. I'm using silicone tools because I like silicone tools, but I also want to show you how to use a brush, because that's what you can use when you use drippy paint. So I'm just getting it into this jar like that. And I'll keep these tools aside because they're mark making tools as well. So essentially, this is what I have in here. You can see there's not much in there. Okay, now keep in mind that I just combined my cold wax medium with my Galkyd Gel, which is like the toothpaste consistency, 1 to 3. Well, what if you can't get the gel? I've done the same thing here, very same proportion, 1 to 3 here. There's the label. I do label everything here. And notice this says 1 to 3, Galkyd Gamsol. The difference is that instead of the toothpaste kind, I use the liquid, right? So 1 part of this guy, and then 3 parts of Gamsol, which is really just an odorless mineral spirit. Really the same chemical composition. The only difference is that this is a liquid, right? Unlike the Crisco that's sitting on my palette. And the reason I'm telling you that is because if I want to go liquid with my oil and cold wax medium, then I'm going to have to do something to this paint in here. I guess, Lisa, if you can if you can spotlight both of me with holding things up. Yeah.
You mean your face and your palette, your paint front?
Right.
Okay, let me get that. See if I can figure that out.
There you go. Here. Okay, it's the next one over, Lisa.
Nope, that's not it. I'll figure it out. Just a second.
All right, no worries. Well, here's my jar, and I'm going to add, I've got a little medicine dropper here, and I'm just going to, and I don't really need a medicine dropper. I can just dump it in. I can see now. So I'm going to dump it in. And I'm just guessing, like there's no formula. Now I'm going to stir it up with my palette knife and get it kind of liquidy, right? Because I want it to be drippy. You want that paint to kind of dissolve in the liquid. So hopefully you can see that what's happening there. I mean, look at it. Now, this is just not the same consistency as what was on my palette. And we've got a nice container now full of drippy paint. If I add more black paint to this, it will be thicker. And, you know, I was thinking of doing this demo on the wall, but I'm not because of distance from the camera, and I wanted you to be able to see up close what I'm doing. So now that I've added that to the paint, I've got a liquidy sort of concoction there. Oh, sorry guys. Just slip back on there. So now I'll take a brush. So this is the beauty of, Lisa, you can go back to just, I guess probably just my drawing. You can do that. So I've got a brush, and then I've got my little container here. So I'm mixing it up now with my paintbrush. And if you guys like drippy paint, you know, keep in mind that it is going to take a little bit longer for you to dry it. But again, if you're working on 10 things at a time, you're going to set this aside and just let it dry. It might take a few days. That's okay, because you're working on so many other things. So I'm really making sure that I've got this into solution here. And
again, Pam, you're mixing oil paint into
my 1 to 3 Galkyd to Gamsol.
Okay.
Okay, so now look, it's like a wash. I mean, you can work with cold wax and oil, and it's like a wash, and that's really great, right? And yes, you can do the whole drippy thing. The reason I did this on paper at first was so that I could actually show you. If I just dump some of this on there, you can see how liquidy it is, right? And look, I mean, you can get it to move around just fine.
Somebody's asking if they can use that to paint a line on top of it in caustic.
No, if it's the last thing you do, it's okay. In other words, when you transition into cold wax and oil on top of an encaustic, unless you're going to remove almost all of it, you don't want to fuse any solvents, and solvents are Gamsol.
Right. And they would be better off to use India ink.
Yes, right. Yeah, they're right. That's a great question. Okay, so you can kind of see how in time, you know, if you turn this thing around, and I did this on paper so I could actually flex it and turn it around, but you can see how you can get, you know, again, automatic drawing or
That's
automatic
super
paint.
fun, Pam.
Thanks, Lisa. Now I've got this, right? But what about my thicker paint? I've got this thick paint now, and I've got a silicone tool, which, you know, one of my favorite things to work with. And look, you can do that. And you can make all kinds of interesting marks like that. You can take a brayer. I want to show you guys. Here's my. Okay, so I just want to show you this real quickly. This is these are some tools I made a while ago, and there's a YouTube video on, like, I use these double-ended pastry rollers, and I covered them with neoprene. So like, these are tools that you can make yourself. I'm a big believer in like making your own tools, because why not, right? They're original. Nobody's going to make the marks that you make. These are just all like neoprene, you know. And there's a video on YouTube on how to do this. But the reason I'm showing you this is because, you know, if I take, say, this guy that I made, and you never know what the results will be, right? But if I take this guy and I roll it into my thicker black paint, let's just see what happens here. I'm just essentially, let's see if I can move this over. So this is how you charge a brayer. And you can see that the neoprene is hopefully picking up some of that paint.
Those are great tools, Pam.
Yeah, they're pretty bizarre. But yeah, I showed how to make these in some workshop a long time ago. But anyways, let me get this out of the way. But look, there's like even a old linen roller. Like it has the double-sided sticky tape for getting like lint off clothing and stuff like that. I just put some like an interesting fabric on there, and so I turned it into a tool.
Yeah, that's great.
So now here's this guy, and let's just see what kind of a mark it makes. Okay, so now you just charge it again in your oil paint. And
what is neoprene and where do they get it?
Well, if you look it up on Amazon, you'll find it. They're adhesive. It's like fabric. Like, you know, there's clothing made of neoprene. A scuba diving suit is neoprene. And you can get it with an adhesive back. And that's what I did for these tools. And then I just cut into the neoprene and I adhered it to my tools. Okay. And I cut into the neoprene here. And then I stuck it onto the pastry roller. And then I did put PVC, like some kind of sealer. You could use like a gloss medium or whatever you want to do just to seal it in there. Okay.
Yeah, those are great.
Okay. All right. So then, you know, other things would be like you can monoprint with cold wax and oil. I love to monoprint. So here's my roll of just brown paper that painters use. And it comes in all different lengths. And you just like, you don't have to use this. You can use newsprint if you want. But since I have it here, you can put it on a thick, juicy area of paint like this. And just, well, first of all, let's just do the simple thing. So you just lay it on top of a patch of paint like this, and you press it like this. You lift it. Now see what's on the paper. And now you can move it over to some other place. And there's still some paint on there, so you can keep moving around like this. Now it's also getting into that liquidy stuff, but that's fine, right? I don't really care, like even that's cool. What if I transfer this liquid part? Can I do that? Probably. So the main thing you're asking is like, what if, right? What if I do this? What if I do that? So essentially, this is automatic drawing, and you can go back into, like, I would want to let these guys dry, but at the same time, you can come back in and, like, here's my brush again, and you know, you can work back into this in any way that you want, and you can see, like, all you're doing is you're observing what happens. Like what I observe when I do this is a lighter value than that. I'm not thinking, I'm just observing. And the more you do this, and you can save some of these early automatic drawings. I had one student, maybe that was Tammy, who she did an automatic drawing and she framed it. And I thought, well, then why not? Because sometimes they're going to be some of the coolest things you ever do. So,
yes.
Right? So now, like what I'm doing is what am I doing? I'm exploring my brush. I like to use the word explore or experiment. Right now I'm experimenting. What can my brush do? You know, what if I touch this wet area and then come into a dry area? What happens if I look at this little area and just mush it all together? Like now I'm creating a bit of shape, right? But I'm still using my brush, and I consider this to be automatic painting, drawing, whatever. What happens if I go into this maribou crayon, and then what happens to it? Does it get nice and dark and juicy? Yes. What happens when the brush runs out of paint? What does that look like? Well, now I've got a bit of a dry brush here. So I'm just playing. I'm playing, I'm not thinking, but I am observing because I'm an adult. A child, unlike a child, I'm an adult. And so I can observe and remember, whereas a child would just be doing this without, you know, they're doing the same thing I'm doing. The only difference is that I will remember. They probably will not until they get older. So that's essentially what I think of as automatic drawing. Now, it doesn't matter. Again, you're going to see how this is going to look a lot like what I do with acrylic. And so I'm trying to emphasize that it's not about the medium. And just to make sure you guys know that this is oil and cold wax medium, right? For those coming on later, it is about automatic drawing, which can be done in any medium. You could have a colored pencil, you could have one pencil, you could have a crayon. And then, like, I didn't really show it too well on here, but the other thing you can do, let me just move this out of the way. And now I'm going to just show you something that, all right, so that's the oil and cold wax medium. The other thing though, now this is an encaustic board right here. So we're still kind of in the oil and cold wax medium demo here. But I guess what I wanted to really show you is that automatic drawing and you know, I do this all the time. Like, this is how I start my work. Do I expect any of these marks to make it to the final painting? Well, not necessarily, but if they do, great. And if they don't, that's okay too, because I can always put marks back. So right now I'm just doing this automatic drawing, and I want to kind of make it chaotic and crazy. So I'm going to just take my art graph, really see how, you know, I'm holding on its edge. It's that light. Forward a little bit. Just want you to know that this is an oil and cold wax medium board. Anyways, it's not oil and cold wax yet. But let's say I do something like this. I want to make it really dense in terms of these marks. So I'm going to just grab all kinds of things. You can grab 3 things at a time and do that. Oh, and then there's graphite powder. I didn't show that, but graphite powder is one of my favorite things to use. I got a little cotton cosmetic, you know, makeup remover here. Works lovely for that. And the reason I want to show you like all these different ways of putting on marks is because you're putting things on. You just fill in some of this white. Some of you, like one person recently said they finished their painting and they were really disappointed because some of their gessoed canvas still showed, and they didn't want the canvas to show, but they loved the painting, right? So can you guys see how this sets you up for, number one, you don't have a white surface anymore. I mean, you really have done something to this anyways, and it's not nearly as intimidating as just a white canvas or that kind of thing. Now, keep in mind that your eraser is your friend, right? Because you can draw into that as well. So you know, the automatic drawing that you do can go on for quite some time. Try out like different erasers. I may only have this one right now, but you know, how does it work in graphite versus like some of these other marks? Can I use it to smear? And that's the other question. What if, you know, a lot of people are so concerned about delicate marks, and okay, so I want to show you that these are delicate marks. Some of them are water soluble, some are not. What happens when I start to add cold wax medium to the top? Because that would kind of be my next step. If I were going to move on into a painting, I'm going to start to add colors and, you know, move paint around. Well, what happens to these delicate marks? So what I'm going to do is clean off my silicone tool here, and maybe I'll take a little wider one. So I've got different widths, right? And on my resource page, I do list a lot of the stuff that I'm showing you right now. I mean, I should just mention that. Okay, so now I put a blob there, right? And I just want to show you that, look, there's just not a whole lot of change in the surface. Like, that's one thing I really like about the dry mark making on, say, a board like this. It's one of the things that you're not quite as worried about because you're not adding water to these water soluble marks like you would be in acrylic, which I'll show you in just a second. So notice how I can do this, and notice how grungy the cold wax medium is getting. But look at, with this tool, I can scrape it back to almost it being really, really, you know, pretty clean again anyways. But the point is that you have a lot of flexibility with your panel, and you know, if it's getting too dark, it's picking up too much graphite or whatever it's doing, you can save this and mix it with your paint later. You're not wasting it. So I'm going to put that onto my palette here and save that for later. And then I'm going to clean off this tool just with paper towel. You don't need anything else. It just comes really clean with the paper towel. And then come back in here again. And again, see, look at how beautiful that mark is retained. I didn't lose any of it. So I hear some interference, Lisa. I don't know if everybody's muted or.
Maybe, I don't know.
Well, actually, it's just us. Nobody else actually can.
Right. So maybe it's me. You know, my dishwasher's going. So
maybe so. Who knows? But I just heard a little bit. It's not very loud. Okay, so that I just wanted to show you guys that. Any questions about the cold waxing oil, what you can and what you can't do, or
how long is the saved paint good?
Well, if you keep it in a tin like this, and I did it in 2 ways. Like when I was at the grain studio, I had a refrigerator. It had way more art supplies than it ever had food in it. And so as long as you're not combining stored art materials with food, you could keep a tin like this in the refrigerator and it would actually last a long, long time. And that's true for your oils mixed with cold wax medium, or let's say you squirted out some oils and you didn't use it all up, you can store that in the refrigerator as well. But if you don't have a dedicated refrigerator, then it still keeps for a good week, if not 2 weeks. And you could drop just a few drops of Gamsol over the top of your oils and it'll keep it fresh. Make sure you've got a tight fitting lid. You know, that's pretty important. Any other questions?
I did put your resource page link in the chat for everybody. And let's see, somebody says they can't hear my dishwasher, but I might go shut it off anyway. I don't know. No this worries. Might not cancel out noises like Zoom does. You know, we get used to Zoom the way it cancels out the noises.
Yeah.
Let's see. Somebody asked about brushes. What brushes do you suggest? A brand or anything specific when you're doing oil and cold wax?
Well, my favorite, now there are two types of main tools, I would say, if you're working with cold wax and oil. And my favorites, you know, would be like these silicone, they're called silicone scrapers. Here we go. See, there we go. They come in a lot of different sizes. This one is, I haven't cleaned these, so they don't look that great, but yeah, this is what they look like, all these different sizes. And they're pretty easy to find, and I do list them on my resource page, but they come from, you can get them, you know, from Dick Blick, or I get mine from Amazon just because I'm kind of like always, it's easy to go there. And then any oil painting brush will work if you like the drippy paint, right? Just make sure it's an oil painting brush and vary the sizes. If you're working large scale, you're going to need a large brush. If you're working small scale, then of course, you know, brushes like these will do just fine. So you have to look at like the size of what you're working on. That determines the size of the tools that you're going to be using. And people don't often realize that when they scale up, all of their tools really do have to scale up, okay? All right, so I'm gonna just let this kind of dry a little bit, and you know, you can, even after like, I don't know, 20 minutes to an hour, what I've done on here can set up a bit. Now I don't have any white on my palette here. If I did, I would be able to move this a lot more forward, but I'm keeping it simple. For those of you who are doing this with me, I just have black, okay? Now I'm gonna move into the acrylic. Instead of using, let them dry. Okay, let me get all this stuff out of the way.
I'm gonna run and shut off my dishwasher. I'll be right back.
Okay, Lisa. Yeah, any questions from you guys? Let's see. Tina, I believe they are in Watching. Okay, I would have to listen in real close to hear it. I do hear some background noise. Great, guys, about the dishwasher. That's great to hear. Okay, so now I will say that cleanup of your tools is super easy, right? And don't let that stop you from, you know, say using this medium. Just do this here. Okay. So when you're cleaning your tools, I have a paper towel, and like with my spatulas, I just get the majority off. And as long as you do it while it's still wet, the paint is still like wet, you know, that's done. That's ready to be stored. brushes, what I'll do is I'll get the majority of paint out. So here's a tiny brush. Let's see if you can see it like this. Okay. And I just get the majority of paint off. And then maybe a little bit of cooking oil. So what I would do then is grab my cooking oil and squirt it on my palette like this. And you're just going to rub it around until you don't really see anymore. But you can see that even after the paper towel that I use, there's really not much paint or anything left in there. And you're adding oil so that, you know, keeps the bristles nice and pliable. Take your paper towel, get all the oil out, and now you're done. I mean, that's all you have to do. And I'm just going to wipe that off because it's oil and I don't want to confuse that with anything else. So I put that back. As far as the brayer goes, you can kind of do a similar thing with oil to clean it out. Just get it all off like this and wipe it with a paper towel. Now this little clump here of coal wax medium, when I'm done for the day, I'll put that back in the container. And then with the black, I mean, I usually challenge myself to use up all the paint on my palette if I can. So that's why if you have multiple boards ready to go, then you don't have to, you know, you're not storing as much paint, which I like to do. So if you have a limited palette, you've got say 3 colors and you've mixed all these wonderful tints, tones, and shades, then you might have, you know, several boards ready to go with the intent of saying to yourself, okay, I've got this much paint. I'm going to start as many boards as I need to, or, you know, Arches oil paper, whatever, until it's gone. And then you don't have to store anything. I mean, that's a challenge I give myself because I'd rather use it up than store it. I just don't like to have to store my paint if I don't have to.
There's a couple questions. I'm not sure what you saw. I'm sorry. I stepped away and got a coffee too. Let's see. Carol asked if you've done paintings in more of a representational abstract style.
Okay. Yes, I have. In my early watercolor days as a young mom, I did a lot of more realistic landscapes. I did people. I did still lives. I actually even went photorealistic for a while there. And I think it's really good to try, sorry, I'm not closest. It's good to try all these things because how do you know what you like, right, until you've tried it? And I always encourage artists to, especially early on in their careers, to don't worry about your art not looking like one person. Your voice will come out. It just needs to have a chance to make choices. And it's all about, you know, the choices that you present to yourself. And if you go super photorealistic all the way to super Joan Mitchell or Jackson Pollock, maybe you're like, whoa, I'm not that and I'm not this, I must be somewhere in between. And you will definitely have strong reactions to these ways of painting. That's the whole point. The whole point to push yourself into these extremes is to have a reaction. It's either going to be, wow, I love it, or wow, that's not me, or, but then the second thing is, well, I love what I just did, but did I love the process to get there? So let's say you love photorealism. You like the way it looks. Say you're in a gallery and the gallery is like, oh yeah, we carry photorealistic work, but you're like, I love the way it looks, but I don't have a lot of patience. Therefore, this is not going to be a very good way to sustain me working in my studio because you don't have that kind of patience. So it's a matter of mixing and matching. Process is going to be a very big part of who you become. The more you love your process, and that's one reason I just showed you what I do when I started painting, because I love that. I know on any given day, I can walk into my studio and do automatic painting or drawing without thinking. So number one, that has become my go-to way of starting every single work. Whether those marks end up showing in the final painting, I don't care. The other thing is that if they get covered up and I liked it, it's like, I don't have that feeling of like, oh shucks, it's gone, because I can always add it back at any stage later. And I've done that at times. I've done some crazy automatic drawing at the very end. So any other questions?
Well, yes, it looks like Jay asked if you ever worked on canvas rather than paper. And then also, I'm not sure how to pronounce pronounce this other person's name. Starts with a D, Devande. Can cold wax be applied to dry acrylic paintings?
Okay, so the first one, canvas. Yeah, I am starting to work on canvas, and there's going to be some videos coming to the YouTube channel. I just finished a 4 foot by 8 foot painting that I began within our Art and Success Pro membership group. So a lot of us work together, again, with the prompts from the Expressive Drawing book. And we started, and we worked on it for several weeks, and I just finished it. So I'd say it took about a month, and it's now off the wall, all rolled up. That was on canvas. That was acrylic mixed media. But my goal is to transition into oils on canvas, but I do want to have a little bit of cold wax medium, and I do want to be able to work on canvas. So I know that I've never taught that before. The key to it then again is to have less than 1 part to 3 parts, because that's 25%, right? 1 part of 3 parts, 2-3 parts is 25%. So if I keep my cold wax medium to less than 1 part to 3 parts, I'm now in an area where Gamblin Colors says it's okay to paint on canvas. They say, well, probably best if you don't roll it, but I've had friends who said, oh, they rolled it with no problem. So, again, if you're willing to do a little testing and experimenting, I definitely and I also work with cold wax medium and oils on top of an acrylic painting. So I almost did it on this one. I almost transitioned into cold wax and oil, but I decided not to. The whole reason for doing it or not doing it has more to do with surface quality, has to do with gradation, has to do with solid areas of color and not showing any brush marks, because different tools, different techniques, and that kind of thing. The other question was working with putting cold wax medium over an acrylic, Lisa?
Yes, and then there are a couple more now as well.
Yeah, so basically I have a 4-step process for my acrylic paintings that do the final of those 4 steps is to apply cold wax medium in a very thin layer to the surface, and then buff it so it's nice and shiny, but satiny, not like an acrylic. So acrylic, as most of you know, is like a high gloss situation here. And so I do a 4-step process where the final step is to rub cold wax medium very thinly, let it dry, and then buff it. And I've had people say, wow, is that an encaustic? Or how did you do that with your acrylic painting? So once I found I could do it, and because I love the encaustic surface, that's what lured me to the medium, I felt like, okay, that's one more checkbox in the cohesion column. If my encaustics can look somewhat like my acrylics, even though they're a different medium, that's a good thing, right? So a lot of us feel like we want to be recognized by our style, and that comes down to cohesion, but cohesion comes after a lot of painting, a lot of decision making, a lot of choices being made. Maybe you started with 10 mediums and you're narrowing it down to 5, and then you're narrowing it down to 3, and now you're down to the last 2 that you love. Maybe you've got a couple different bodies of work that are quite different from one another. I do that, but I found that it's fine. You can actually do that. You never hear anyone talking about that, but the galleries that I'm in, they're fine with it, and they've sold in all these different ways that I work. So don't get so hung up on, people still know it's my work, and it's just a matter of degree. Okay. So what is your preferred method of cleaning brushes after using cold wax and Galkyd? So I think I just showed that, Cynthia. I just rub it into a little blob of oil, cooking oil, any cooking oil, the cheapest cooking oil you can get, like canola, not olive oil, because that's pretty expensive. I had somebody ask, do I need to use olive oil to clean my brushes? I'm like, well, you could, but so I use just regular old cooking oil, which I just showed. I put a little puddle on my palette paper and I rub my brush in there, and then got most of the paint out. Then I use my paper towel to get the last bit of cooking oil out of there. So that's a great question. Okie dokie. All right, so are we ready to move into acrylic? Again, it's kind of the same thing as far as process goes, and that's one of the things I want to show you guys. You can work in a lot of different mediums, but process, if you love automatic drawing, I really encourage you to try this in every medium that you do, because you want to kind of find a process that you love. That's what's going to keep you coming back to your studio. So now,
Tina asked if that was palette paper you were using.
gray, the gray paper.
Yeah, I think so. She didn't specify, but yeah.
The gray, yes, the gray paper is palette paper, and I like that, right? It's great stuff. But let me just show you that this is a piece of cardboard that I covered with freezer paper. I got the shiny side out, and I've used this for a large palette for cold waxing oil too, because obviously it's cheaper and I can have any size I want. But the size of that palette was quite large, and the reason it's gray is because it's a mid-tone, okay? So great, it's not moving around too much. This is like, the size of it is 16 by 20, so it's quite large. But you know, once you start working with a limited palette, let's say you've got 3 colors plus black and white, this won't be big enough. Not if you're mixing your colors the way I think is maybe one of the best ways, which is to really exploit the colors that you have. So you soon find out that your palette just might not be big enough. And color is a whole nother thing, a whole nother day. We'll get into that. So,
Susan asked if she shouldn't switch her brushes back and forth, even though she cleans them well from acrylic to oil. Do you have?
Yeah, I tried to have dedicated acrylic versus oil, but then it's kind of like you start to have your favorite brushes. And my only comment on that would be, if you work in oils or acrylic, either way, make sure that you get all that acrylic or oil paint on your brush. And then, like whatever, cooking oil if it's an oil paint brush, soap and water if it's acrylic. And I would take one further step if it's you've just had oil painting on your brush, is get all the oil out, get all the Gamsol out, and then use soap and water until it comes out really, really clean. And then I think you're fine, because there's just like hardly anything left in there.
Great. Well, and then since we're getting ready to start in acrylic, Rachel asked about automatic drawing. Is it about experimenting with marks and testing your tools? She thought it had a deeper meaning, like when the surrealists used it, or does it have many uses?
Yeah, well, as the book said, you know, I just read that little paragraph out of the book. It is meant to, reach into the deeper conscious mind. And I think by not thinking, that's exactly what you are doing. And I really wasn't thinking. I think the thing about observing, you can say to yourself, well, if you're observing, are you thinking? But that gets into the nitty gritty. I just feel like I'm always a multitasker. So maybe the fact that I'm observing and not thinking is my way of multitasking, because I tend to always be aware. I mean, I'm aware of what I'm doing, but I don't think that's thinking. So I'm aware of whether art graph is dark or light. I'm aware if it's gonna smear when I put cold wax medium over it or not. The point is, you guys have to decide what level of not thinking you want to do. And I believe that, yes, some of our most creative work comes from that beginning of automatic drawing. And the reason is that there are no expectations. You're not going to be hard on yourself. How can you be hard on yourself when you look down at what you just did and it's like, maybe it doesn't look good, but you weren't thinking. So how can you blame yourself when it doesn't look good and you weren't thinking? Plus, it's just meant to get you into the studio. It does hold a lot of clues, totally. Like, I can look at what I just did over here and I see patterns. So after I'm done with it, and I'm not, I'm just like, now I'm really looking at it and just observing, right? I can say, well, I see patterns, and I see thick and thin, I see large and small, I see light and dark. And this is after I'm done with the automatic drawing. That's where you can see the deeper meaning, right? And it gave you clues. And there's another part in the book that talks about doodling. And is doodling like automatic drawing? Well, yes, doodling is very, very much automatic drawing. So again, it's a good question, but the idea is that I wasn't thinking. I was just doing. And if I wasn't doing a demo, I'd probably be a lot more in right brain mode, but you know, I have to engage my left brain to get 2 words out of my mouth. So therefore, if I didn't, yeah, it wouldn't make a lot of sense. And I'm not suggesting in the first place. So a couple last tips before I move on, and this is something I really had to figure out, guys. I know you can't really see it. Let me see if I can get this any closer.
Maybe up a little. There you go.
Yeah, these are a test. Okay, how many of you have worked in acrylic, let it dry, and oils, and let it dry on paper, for instance? And it's like, wow, did I work in acrylic or did I work in oil? Have you guys ever had that question?
Yes.
So here's the test. There is a way to find out. You've got a painting on paper or board that you're not sure if it's acrylic, you're not sure if it's oil or cold wax. So here's the test that I just recently discovered. If you take a little blue shop towel or paper towel and you put some alcohol, 70% isopropyl alcohol, which is just run-of-the-mill stuff you get at the pharmacy, right? If you grab this, put it on your blue shop towel and rub the surface gently of the unknown medium, you're not sure if it's acrylic or oil. If it comes off like this, it's acrylic. If it doesn't come off, then it's oil. In the same way, if you take the same shop towel and you put Gamsol on it, if you rub an acrylic painting, nothing, almost nothing. You can see a little bit of a shadow on there, but nothing compared to this guy, right? So this was Gamsol on acrylic. It didn't come off. And the same is true if you reverse it. So if you use Gamsol on an oil painting, it will look like this. If you use alcohol on an oil painting, it'll look like this. Now you have to rub it enough to give it a chance to come off, but the point is Gamsol will not take acrylic off. And alcohol will take acrylic off. So just remember those two things, alcohol and Gamsol. They're your friend because they will help you know what you put. And then after that, you'll always label your painting on the back, which is now what I kind of do when I remember.
Yes, we have to remember that, right? That is a wonderful test. I know we had somebody asking about that in the pro membership Facebook group.
Oh, it's such a pain when you're like, what did I use? I don't remember. Yeah. The other little tip is because Arches oil paper looks so much like Arches cold pressed watercolor paper, I immediately, there's a watermark, but not every corner, it's only on 2 corners. So if you cut an paper and the watermark's gone, you don't know what it is anymore. So I put, either acrylic, it's over here, I write it acrylic or watercolor paper versus oil paper so that I don't forget, because oil paper is really great for working with oils and cold wax, but acrylic watercolor paper, you'd have to gesso that to work with oil and cold wax. So try to keep those 2 papers straight. That would be a great idea. Okay, so now we're gonna work on acrylic here. And here's my little acrylic thing for those coming a little bit later so that you guys know. This is just my Arches watercolor paper. And I did want to show you just some additional ways to make marks, which is nothing new. But here I just got a bottle of water here like that. And, you can, because it's, this is watercolor paper. And I have this little thing, this little container here filled with India ink, and I put a pin in the end. It comes with a pin actually, and then you can move this around with the brush. So we grab my watercolor brush, a container of water, and I made my little wet palette here. It's a mini, so there's that.
Oh, that's a cute little palette.
Isn't it adorable?
Yes. And Tanya is asking if you can use Arches oil paper for acrylic.
Yeah, I would imagine you can. I mean, to be honest, I would probably want to look into that a little bit more because I'm not absolutely positive what it is about oil paper that makes it oil paper. I just don't know the answer to that. I've often wondered, and because I made the mistake of putting acrylic over an oil primed canvas, which is very expensive, you know, and I lost the painting on top of it. I tend to like to ask questions or find the answer if I don't know, you know, if I don't know the answer, then I feel like I should do a little bit of like looking into it. I don't know the answer. So again, you know, mark making can be all kinds of things, but this is just really fun. And you may really, yeah, you may really like the results, you know, after you just play around like this. And I can't see really where the water is, and that's kind of the fun of it for me. So automatic drawing, like I think sometimes your curiosity feels much more, it's almost like it's, I don't want to say timid, but it needs to almost be invited, right? It has this way of like needing to know that it's not going to be judged. And so that's what this type of thing allows you to do. It brings out the child in you, and think about when you were a child. I mean, I think we are at our most creative. That's why we love children's work. And that's why as adults, we kind of just miss that freedom that we know a child has. And if you have grandchildren and you watch them, you're thinking, wow, because I have a grandchild now, 2 grandchildren now, and they are starting to do painting and things like that. And I'm like, wow, is that what I was like when I was 3? Because that's so different from what I am now. So that's one thing. You can actually wet your paper first, and then you can take things that are water soluble, because there are 2 kinds of things, dry mark making materials. You've got the kind that are, you know, water soluble, like my favorite 8046 pencil made by Stabilo. It's how I sign my name on a lot of different paintings. The Palomino, on the other hand, is not water soluble. So now that I've laid down this water, this is my water soluble one. You know, is there deeper meaning in what I'm doing? Well, I think the thing is, I do find this enjoyable. So are you enjoying what you're doing? Because I think that's what inner meaning is all about. It's kind of speaking to your soul. Like, do I love how when I put this pencil over this wet patch here, how do I feel? Isn't that the ultimate to what we're trying to find out in our art? Like, do we want to paint the things that make us feel good? Now, if I like what's happening here, then yes, on a subconscious level, even though I'm playing and there is no expectation of a masterpiece or a great result, I'm aware. I mean, we don't have to be told when we're enjoying something. We don't have to be told when we love something. And so I do think that is the deeper meaning behind this, you know. Now I started this with thin line, and I really like that, but it's mostly like, you know, this meandering line. And I think for me, and everybody's going to be different, right? And because I've been doing automatic drawing for a long, long time, even in automatic drawing, I don't want to get bored. So does that say something about my subconscious? Absolutely. I just don't want to be bored by what I'm looking at, even if it's automatic drawing, right? Because boredom is something you feel. Repetition, maybe it's because you have a comfort level in the way that you're doing automatic drawing. Like you know, the more you do anything, and there's a lot of repetition in all we do in life, and the same is true in art. But variety is the spice of life, and I feel like in automatic drawing, you know, I'm feeling my way toward like what feels good. That's the ultimate thing, I guess, even a child does, right? They're doing what feels good. So do what feels good, and I do think that will lead to deeper meaning.
When you were doing the other one, a couple people asked about the maribou crayon, what the name of it was, and it's one of my favorites as well. So yes.
Why is it your favorite, Lisa?
Because it's like lipstick. It's so thick and juicy.
Yeah, she's talking about this one, and they come in all different colors, right, Lisa?
Yes.
I tend to, in this case, you know, I'm just sticking with black, but here's what's cool about it is so juicy, right? It is like a lipstick. And the way to get the tip up is to twist it like a lipstick. So just don't put it on your lips because
That's right.
yes, you might be tempted. But the cool thing is you can go from that to this. I mean, that's astonishing to get that range of darkness. And then I will put my glove on here and show you how, another thing I love. So I think the thing about automatic drawing is, like, I loved when the ink hit the wet mark. I personally, deep down, like at the core of my being, love. And what is that though? Then you go deeper, okay? And I'm talking about after you're done with the automatic drawing. If you're really trying to use automatic drawing to find out more about yourself, don't do the thinking while you're doing it. Do it when you're after, because now the left brain has all the time to come in there and say, oh yeah, you felt pretty good doing that, didn't you? And again, this is a conversation between the left brain and the right brain. You don't need to do that conversation while you're doing it, but when you're done, by all means, you know, if something made you happy, you know, maybe cut out a little section of it and put it in your My Story sketchbook. The other cool thing about this maribou is, you know, mark making is not just wet and dry. It's not any particular medium. It's like, what if this were your whole painting here? You just had a maribou crayon and you made a little chunky mark on a huge canvas or paper, and you took your finger and you just blurred the outside. I mean, see, for me, this gives you an idea for whole painting because I love that. And I'm trying to focus on what is it of all the stuff I've done here. What do I personally love? And I know from experience that I love pattern. I love repetition with variation. So I'm not necessarily an Agnes Martin type artist who's minimalist, and that's not enough. It doesn't work for me. So this gives you a way to explore different ways of expressing yourself. And then when you're done, you know, remember how you felt. And okay, so another couple things. I don't want to just be doing the dry media. Let's get into, here's some other things. This one is a refillable Montana marker, which I used on my other painting that's the 4 foot by 8 foot. And I found it, like, first time I used it, you know, again, it's a new tool. The advantage is that you fill it with whatever color you want. It's acrylic, and it's got a sponge tip, which you can replace the sponge tip if it ever gets damaged. You charge it like this, and you know, I actually did this on my painting on the canvas, and I was able to make a very a mark with a lot of intent, right? That's what I'm doing now. Is because I have to slow down with the tool. That's the only reason I say with intent. I'm still automatic drawing, but in order to get a decent line here, I have to at least keep the sponge tip flat against the paper, but I don't have to, right? I can also make a thin line like this, and this is acrylic paint, and it's just kind of fun. So that's another tool. And what else? Okay, so another thing I want to be sure to show you guys is, whoops. Some people have been asking me about stuff I've been doing on tracing paper. So here's some tracing paper.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm coming back up. We'll get this right.
I can't keep up with you. You're so funny. So what I did, these lines, I believe, were done with my, this is another demo, I think, on YouTube. Okay, so this is a jaunting tool. It's got a little bowl on the top that you fill with ink, you know, India ink or whatever. So I did that to make this drawing on tracing paper. And then I found out that, wow, so I tore a piece off like this guy here. And I started to play with those pieces of tracing paper. So let me show you how I adhere it, because a lot of people are saying, okay, how do you adhere it? I see how you did it, but how do you adhere it? So I'm going to turn this guy around, and I'm not sure if this is dry yet. Not too bad. Let me just get some of that extra paint off so that I don't smear it. it does take a while for these inky lines to dry, but on the other hand, the paper is very thirsty and hopefully I won't smear too much. I'll just find an area that doesn't smear. So now what I do is I take, I'm going to use Liquitex acrylic medium here, but it's matte medium because I don't want it to be glossy when I collage this on. So I am going to be collaging this onto this, but you can use gloss medium. You know, there's no secret to this really. And I'm going to use just a whatever silicone tool here to apply the medium. And I'm going to basically use my little piece of tracing paper with a drawing on it because I like it. So I'm going to go over this area. And I'm glad that the inky mark is not bleeding. So now I lay that on top, get rid of this excess. And well, actually, I go over the top too. So what I do is I start from the middle and I go to the outside like this. But you can see this is actually, you know, I know we're talking about automatic drawing, but I couldn't help but show you like some of the things I might do beyond the automatic drawing. So like this would be something that I might consider doing as the automatic drawing process or to develop the painting. Now, I had a drawing on this tracing paper, but I also have tracing paper that has all different colors of acrylic paint. So imagine if you tear off little sections. I can show you in my sketchbook in a second here. So what I'm doing is I'm getting all the wrinkles out, and people were like, and they've done this. I think they've had a pretty good, you know, result. So it's hard to kind of see where that paper is, but that's where it is right there, and there are no wrinkles in it, right?
That's so cool, Pam.
Yeah. Have you tried this, Lisa?
I have not yet. I need to. I love it.
Cool. So let me grab this. So here's another. These are now I painted some tracing paper black, and again I just tore a shape. So here's a shape, right, like that, and here's just another torn shape. But you can kind of see how from your automatic drawing you can start to build this up. Now the same thing could be done. Tracing paper, this is thin enough, and granted it is acrylic. And I know people are going to ask, can I do this with oil and cold wax? And I would say that I have done that and had no problems. But the key is very, very thin paper, number one. And so now I can put that. And then you just go over the top like this. And you have yourself a shape that you really can't get this shape any other way. I mean, it was torn. It's not painted. It's a crazy shape. And okay, for me, I know I love crazy shapes. So there you go. I mean, I can't get this shape unless I tear it out. That's what makes the shape something I love. Because I couldn't think of that. I mean, it just wouldn't come out the same. So I just make sure I get it really flat like this. Same thing with this piece of paper. Got two sides, but you know, you just throw it down and you like it there. So when you progress with a painting like this, and if you love mixed media and that kind of thing, you can kind of see how you may start with this free going automatic drawing. I guess I'm showing you ways that you could advance it. And another little thing I'll show you that I've learned along the way is, this is another thing I showed on another YouTube video, but I covered parchment paper with green painter's tape, right? And you can see how I overlapped it here. You can see these lines where I overlapped it. And the reason I did that was so that I could have a big sheet of essentially what would be adhesive when I pulled the parchment paper off the back. So the advantage of this, you can see I drew some triangles, right? Because I was originally going to cut those out. Well, I mismeasured and I never did use the triangles, but let me just show you. These are some shapes I did cut out, and you know, some of these are super funky, like this one, for example.
Oh, that's great.
So the idea here is, let's say that you do that, and now you peel the parchment paper off the back side. You peel it off like this, see? And I did these a long time ago, and this green painter's tape is pretty sticky. So you peel it off like that, and you don't need to really necessarily keep the parchment paper part, but what you want is the sticky part. Now, this is Arches watercolor paper, and if I were working on a panel, I'd be much more like, let me grab the panel too. So I want to, it may stick to the paper, but it's not going to stick to the panel. I mean, it's not going to pull the paper off. You have to kind of be a little bit aware of what. So this is my panel this is just a panel gessoed with acrylic gesso. And you can stick these guys on here. Again, let's say that I've done all the automatic drawing on here and I'm just progressing with the painting. You just want to like really get these edges. And then a tip from one of the viewers said that if you're trying to keep a crisp edge of a shape here, you just take something like either your gloss medium or in this case, I've got matte medium, and you go over the edge like this. And basically that locks in the shape. You're going to get a crisp, nice edge. It's not going to be like a rough edge. And you just do that.
Is that Liquitex the gesso or just a medium? Yeah,
this is just Liquitex matte medium.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm trying to show the label here. So I'm showing you the back. Okay, it's just matte medium.
Yeah.
Got it on Amazon. So then you just let that dry, and let's say you let that dry, and then you can come over this with paint, and then you lift off the shape, and there you got your shape. So that's just one thing that is another way to, exploring shapes.
I have a question for you, Pam.
Yeah.
Why do you have to put the medium over it if you want to lift off the green shape later? Is that what you're going to do?
It is. And so when I had done this on canvas, what happened was when I pulled the tape off, some of the paint slipped under the edge. Okay. Oh. So if you want a nice, like really nice crisp edge, what I just did with that medium, again, any medium, any acrylic medium will work. You got to let it dry first, then you come over with your paint and you let that dry. Then when you take this off, you're going to have exactly crisp edges and nothing. See, I just sealed the edges of the tape. So no tape, no paint can slide underneath there. Does that make sense?
I was thinking that you weren't going to be able to get the tape off. I was like, whoa, what?
Well, I can let this dry now. But okay, so here's my wet palette. I haven't even done anything with it.
Rachel said your techniques are brilliant. She is collaging with you.
Oh, good. Yeah, if anybody's doing this with me, I'd love to know. So here's my black paint, and I can dilute it. My favorite way to dilute paint is going to be with airbrush medium. I know that, a little bit of water is fine too, but this is a polymer medium, so which just means that it has the same type of chemical structure as the paint. And I feel like that's probably going to be one of the best ways to use it. So while that's drying, and we'll just kind of ignore that, it'll dry up pretty fast. And some of my favorite brushes for acrylic, or I should say, I like to have a variety of brushes. So here's my round. It's got this tip that comes to a point, and there's a bit of a delay here, so it's kind of weird because I talk and then I don't see it happen for a while. These guys are flats here with the flat edge here, like a crew cut, and this is the round. I tend to love my flats, and my favorite brush, which I've had since my watercolor days, is my Winsor & Newton. They have a lot of copycats now, because the Winsor & Newton one is, I'm not sure there's much of a difference between all the copycat ones, but Lisa, do you have this Winsor & Newton one, the clear handle?
Yes.
Yeah, I think most watercolor artists would have this brush. It's got an angled end of the brush as well. It's kind of hard to show you this, but see if I can. Yeah, it's got an angle here, yes, which is good for like making scrapes on your watercolor paper. So
oh yes, it's the best.
Right? Yeah. So I get my brush wet first, and then just kind of go into my airbrush medium to fill that brush with this acrylic medium here, and then, start to get the consistency that I want. Again, you could do this with water. Some artists do, but I just prefer to use my airbrush medium. And, again, I just have to say that with automatic drawing, you want to play with lack of control versus control, right? Because right now, I'm holding the brush by the last inch of the handle. And that's one reason why they talk about long-handled brushes, because they're talking about less control. And if you like that effect, and getting back to that other question about, do I paint in a realistic way? I can't say, like, some of my paintings will reference, say, the landscape or maybe a figure, but I'm not trying to be realistic. But almost all art is a form of abstraction, because even a person who is painting a figure or anything else, there are various degrees of realism, but no matter what you're doing, it's not the same as the real thing. Therefore, it is some form of abstraction. So we often get confused by the word abstraction versus non-objective. No matter what you guys are doing, I'm pretty sure what you're doing is abstract, unless you're photorealistic, and even photorealism has a bit of abstraction in it, because you can't ever exactly copy a photograph. Some things will be missed. So what I'm doing now is I'll try to show you what my hand is doing here. I'm almost not even, like, there is no pressure on the handle here, right? I'm letting my brush do what it wants to do, and I'm just guiding it with my arm. And I am observing, the quality of line and what's happening here. So this is one form of automatic drawing, as well as, your non-dominant hand, of course. That's another thing that's always welcome in this exercise, right? And what can I do with my non-dominant hand, just out of curiosity? Like, the whole idea is, or the whole thing here is, be curious, because curiosity and what if I do this, that question is what leads to the ultimate maximum creativity. If you don't ask that question, and you get into a rut and you're kind of in your comfort zone and you never try anything new, that may work for you, but it wouldn't work for me. So the thing is, you got to know what kind of an artist you are. If you like things that are predictable, and you want to be represented by galleries, and you want to be known for one thing, then you're going to develop a method that allows you to repeat your process again and again with some variation, but not as much variation as if, like, you're like me, and what you really care about is the question, what if? I'm guided by the question, what if? That's a very big difference from any other artist, right? I mean, every artist has their what fascinates them. So I'm fascinated by, what if I try this? And I just don't like to repeat myself. That's why my work has a lot of variation. But there are galleries that actually really appreciate that, and they see they see the common voice in there.
Hello? Did we lose Pam, or did we lose me? We lost Pam. Okay. All right. I think she's coming back. Yep. Okay. No, it's not the end. Pam just lost her internet, so I'm going to call her. Hey, there you are, Pam. We lost you. Sorry about that. I don't know. All of a sudden you were gone.
Okay. Well, am I back?
Yes. Let me just get you on the screen instead of me.
Okay. Thanks, Lisa.
I did. Yeah, that's right. Arachami says, Lisa, song and dance time.
Yes.
That's
Thank you,
great.
guys. Okay, I froze.
Yeah.
Must be my internet, guys. Sorry about that. Shucks. Well, thank you
That's
for
okay.
letting us know, guys.
Yep. Okay, we're back. So
Are we
let
good
me.
now?
I've got some feedback for some reason.
You got feedback?
Okay, I think it's gone. I muted your camera that's looking at your palette.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. Okay, so I will highlight your palette.
Great. Okay, so as I was saying before I disappeared, I like to grab a paper towel and work back into some of these areas like that, and just subtraction, right? So look, you can get all the way back down to the gesso. Now you can see I'm lifting some of that original black paint, which is very cool. I mean, I love, again, be aware of yourself saying, I love something, because you don't have to be told what you love. You're going to know it when you see it. And that's the thing about what you're doing with your art. You got to just throw enough stuff at it so that you have enough opportunities to see the things you love. And that takes a lot of painting, and it takes a lot of like misses. You're going to do a lot of things you don't love, but that is actually as valuable as finding things you do love, because you've got in your wardrobe, you've got things, you know, half of your closet has all the things, your favorites. On the other half of your closet, you have all the things you don't ever want to wear again. Well, those should go off to Goodwill. But you tend to hang on to many ways because you're like, just in case. Well, what if I'm going to wear this, right? But you know the things you love, and by doing this kind of no expectations, automatic drawing, you're giving yourself many opportunities to ask yourself, do I love what I'm doing, right? And you're just giving yourself tons of choices, and it's going to speed yourself up. It's going to speed up your process in finding out what it is that makes you tick as an artist. So I can come down here. But see, to me, this is getting pretty cool. Of course, this is just my aesthetic. Don't expect anybody else to agree with me. All right, so that, and I didn't do graphite yet. I'm still waiting for that to dry. What else can I do? I can certainly grab some more of this paper, and I have worked this paper into acrylic paintings, and I've done it on rice paper and worked it into encaustic paintings. The beauty of tracing paper this thin is that, especially with acrylic, and you hit it with the medium underneath and above, the paper disappears, but it does look better against a lighter background than a dark background, because if you do it on a dark background, you'll see this, the shape, and it disappears when you go against, you know, a white background. So let me add that here with my medium. Okay, so hopefully that's about the size I need. You just put it down, and the beauty here, see, is that you can reposition it, and you're tearing, so you have more control over what it is you're going to add here to your work in progress here, as to taking some marker and just, you know, being free with this line. I mean, to me, I have a much better chance of adding a line that feels really free like this as collage paper than I ever would if I was doing this with a fine line marker, a Sharpie, or whatever it might be. You know, I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't just go over those marks. So, of course, I'm getting into the black paint there, but then if you don't like that, if you're careful, you can Use some of that off. Just dab at it a little bit. But again, that was white paint. But it goes on really flat like that. And let me just...
Rachel's asking, how do you work over water-based mediums like ink without smearing the original marks? Is there a trick?
Yeah, let me show you that in just a second. That's a great question. I hear that one a lot.
Yes.
Okay, so I just added that mark. And so the way to do that, to preserve or fix, I like to use a blue, something without texture. So my favorite is like these blue shop towels, because unlike the white ones that have a design on them, this doesn't have a design on it. So that's why I prefer the blue shop towels, but you know, anything will really work. It could be a sheet of wax paper. This is absorbent, but okay, so I'm just gonna lay it down here. And let's say that I put down a mark like one that really is water soluble. Not that, where did my... All right, well, we'll just pretend that like this one's water soluble. I'll just make some marks. So what I like to do, again, it doesn't really matter which, it should be a thick medium. So whether it is like your Liquitex matte medium or your golden gel medium, whatever, it should be like, it shouldn't be like liquidy, right? You want it to be like less fluidy. That's really
great word.
It's my day.
That's
so
right.
I take it like this, guys, and I just like flatten it out. You know, you want it to be thin. You don't want it to be thick. And you just do this. This is what I do instead of fixative, because I don't like the smell of fixatives, okay? So then I've thinned it out, as you saw, and I just lay it on top of here like this. And I just did this on that 4-foot by 8-foot paint because I had many areas that were water soluble, and I wanted to fix them before I took it off the wall and rolled it. So then you take it off and you look at your paper towel and you say, oh, well, nothing really came off. Then you let it dry. And then you might like do a test and see if it smears. If it does, you're going to do this all over again. You're going to do it again. And then you're going to test it out with a little bit of water maybe. And okay, when it stops smearing, you know that you've locked it in underneath acrylic medium. And that has worked really well for me. It might take multiple times of blotting it, but in time, that should work very well. It might take 3 times that you blot, you know, put more medium on top and then blot it, and then put more medium on top and then blot it for really like stubborn things. Or if it's just a really thick mark that you care a lot about, the more you care about a mark, you should probably really go out of your way to make sure that you've locked it in.
Yes, that is a wonderful tip. Thank you for showing that, Pam.
Have you done that, Lisa?
Oh, yes. Ever since you showed us how. It is amazing. And it works for the maribou crayon, which is one of the most water-soluble, amazing things. But you do have to do it maybe a couple times.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, because maribou's juicy, right?
Yes. Yeah, so that's a good point. The juicier it is, and you know, if you're really not sure whether something's water soluble, all you have to do is, you know, first try to smear it, see how well it smears, and get to know all of the different tools you have, because each one has different things that it's going to do. So now that this is probably dry enough where I could peel that tape off, and
yay, we can't wait.
Okay, so I've got a blade here, and normally I would have a pair of tweezers. Keep in mind that it's still a little wet around the edges, but I think it's good enough. You want to just lift off an edge here. Ooh, I think that we're going to be okay. But see, the crispness of this edge, there are going to be times when, and because you know, the way that I made this stencil is strips of tape. So when I peel it off, sometimes it'll come off in the same strips that I put it on. But in any case, I would call that, yeah, I would call that a high fidelity, meaning like you know, is it Memorex or is it real? Whatever. Like, look, guys, that's a pretty cool hard edge shape. And the beauty of it is the contrast between this versus, like, look what it's right next to, right? And so, yeah.
And so just to recap what you did, you put your tape down and then you just did the Liquitex medium or kind of around the edges. You didn't really go over the tape, right?
I kind of did, but I don't think it matters. Like, really what you want is the edges.
Okay.
But because the shape is so tiny, it was easy for me just to go over the whole thing.
Okay. Great.
And again, I recommend a pretty sticky tape. You know, you don't want, like, the blue painter's tape could work, but I found that the green tape, which is more pricey, but I just, you get out parchment paper because it has to be taped on something that releases. It won't release from tracing paper. It's got to kind of be parchment paper because that does not really want to stick to anything. Okay. And then you can draw a shape on top, and then, like, I even reused them. Like, I saved. Well, of course, I threw that one in the garbage because it had paint all over it. But you can reuse these shapes again if you're kind of careful and you keep the backing to stick them right back on the parchment paper. I've done that before too. Yeah, they're not going to be as good, but you kind of can get more than one use out of them. So, all right. So, any questions, guys? That's kind of the demo. I can't think of anything else.
Let's see here. Let me spotlight you and. Oh wait. Okay.
Oh yeah, hairspray is handy.
Not me.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you so much for mentioning hairspray.
Okay, I gotta get it back to where it's supposed to be. I don't know why it keeps going back to me.
Huh. That's okay. What I can do is I can do this. But we don't see that anymore. Oh, now Lisa, where'd you go? There we go. Good to see you, Lisa.
Oh dear. Yeah, I couldn't seem to get myself out of it, so I took myself out of the video.
Gotcha. Okay, well, any questions, guys? Questions or anything to add to this? Any tricks or things you guys do with automatic drawing that you want to share with people? Because, I mean, mine's just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, everybody loved the tape demo, and they loved the tip for water soluble, sealing the water soluble marks, and everybody was loving the different things in the chat. And so we told them to take screenshots. So that's a nice thing to remember.
Yeah.
And somebody also said that hairspray works to seal, but then you're going for yucky smells again. And somebody's asking, how do we join the Monday presentations in the future? Is it from your Facebook page or just here in YouTube?
I think for now it's going to be in YouTube, and part of the reason is that it stays here on my channel, and then I probably will do like a recap that's shorter, because like this has been 2 hours, or will be. I'm going to do a shorter, like maybe 10-15 minute highlight reel that's going to come on probably over the next week or two, for those who've missed it or just don't have time to watch the whole 2 hours. But listen, guys, I plan on being here, whether Lisa can join me, which I love when she can be here. So you guys clap your hands for Lisa, because we love Lisa so much. She is my partner in crime here.
We have so much fun.
So maybe next time, you know, if she wasn't so busy with like calling chat, she could be doing her thing too. But you know, like in our Zoom and Paint calls with the pro members, we do it once a week for 7 hours, and Lisa's with me, and we highlight those people who have their cameras pointing toward their work. We get a whole, like, it's like watching work being created for a museum, you know. And but I plan on going live on Mondays, because part of it for me is that I'm trying to build a new habit, and I'd like to have as many people join me who want to create a habit as well. Like, let me know what time it is in your part of the world too. Like, where are you located and what time was it when we started this, which was about an hour and a half ago. Because if it's a good time for you, I need to know like where you're at and was this a good time for you? We could do it at a different time, but I sort of feel like now like it kind of works, or should it be later? Great, guys. Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, there was a bit of techie stuff.
Susan says that she uses the matte medium fixing technique on oil pastels and it works.
Nice.
And Bonnie says she loves the automatic drawing. Would you continue with white next, then color, etc.? Do you know?
Yeah. So that's kind of okay. So my goal, just so you know, for these live demos, obviously to share any tips that I know, share with you my process, and then you can either say yay or nay to whether you want to try it or not. But you know, ever since I started this YouTube channel, it's always been about like sharing how I have been able to maneuver through the thick woods myself, and I find it to be like it's so enjoyable when you know you've got a community that's kind of doing the same thing with you. So the Mondays will sometimes be a table demo. It could be that I'm working on a wall. There'll always be a chance to answer questions and so to ask questions, obviously. And I will create the event in various Facebook groups. That's probably how you guys even knew that this was happening here. And aside from that, you should, if you're subscribed to the channel, which I encourage you to do, if you're not subscribed to this channel, not just hit the subscribe but the notification bell, because if you had done that, then you would have gotten an email when we went live, and that's the only way to like receive an alert, because I'm not emailing everybody. I don't have your email, so that would be important. Lisa, can you think of anything else?
I don't. Somebody asked if you know what you're doing next week. Oh, I can't hear you. Why can't I hear you? Can anybody else hear Pam? Well, say something again, Pam. I don't know if our signal is going out. No sound, no sound. Do you hear me at all? You hear me, they don't hear you. I don't think anybody hears us. Where did our sound go? Can't hear Pam, but you can hear me. Gosh, we're just having some technical difficulties. We can't hear Pam. I wonder if we should take your tabletop off to eliminate some of the signal use. Can I? Let's see. I'm gonna take it out. Say something, Pam. Can't hear you. Isn't that crazy? Guess I'll start dancing, guys. I don't know why. Oh, did your mic battery die? Jane says she can't hear either of us. Well, please do dance. You guys are great. They hear me. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure if I can remove your tabletop from the stream. It says remove source. I can do that. Does that mean? I hate to mess things up if I remove the source and it's not what I'm supposed to do for your tabletop. Yeah, I'm sure she'll let us know. If she doesn't already know, she could maybe type in chat. Gotta love these technical difficulties, right? Switch mics, maybe, Pam. Still can't hear you. Huh. It says that's a guest, Pam. Your face camera. It says remove. Oh, she's gone, guys. She'll be back in a minute, I bet. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm sure she'll be right back. Yeah. Oh, was the tabletop mic loud? Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, I think we got everything done. I bet she'll be back, though. I'm not going to end it without her. So I'm so glad you guys all came. And if you have ideas for things you would like to see her do, put those in the chat. That might be great to give her some ideas of things you might like to see her demo, questions you might have that you haven't seen her do. Yeah. Yeah, we work well together. Thank you so much, Leslie and Kathleen and everybody, Bonnie. Oh, Slovakia. That's great. We've had so many people from lots of different places. We'll be here next week. Hope you can too. Okay. Yes, it will. Has been recorded, and it will be on YouTube. Here comes Pam back. There she is. Yay.
Yay. Am I back?
You're back.
Yay, guys.
It's a little blurry for some reason.
Yeah, let me check my settings here for video.
Oh, yeah, I bet you got to do that. Yeah, I just told everybody to put in the chat ideas that they had for maybe what you can do in the future Mondays, questions and demo ideas.
Sure.
So that's great. And Bonnie says she would love to see you continue after the automatic drawing stage, which I think we had talked about you were going to do. So yeah, I got to do lots of chatting while you were gone.
I bet you did. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Thank you, Lisa, of course. She's our wonderful co-host. And we don't know if we'll have her every Monday, but yeah, essentially my idea is that definitely I'm going to show up in my studio, right? So it's more like whatever I'm doing, and I work in 4 mediums, and the thing about automatic drawing, that's the reason I want to show you that is because that is how I start every painting, regardless of what medium it's in. In some mediums, like in caustic monotype, that's all I do. It's just automatic drawing, done. That's it. That's one of the reasons I love that medium. So what I do next, I think like the paintings I started today, I'll probably be, I could continue working on them. I suppose I could save them and continue working on those and just save those for the Monday mornings instead of working on them during the week. How does that sound?
And encaustic, we've had a request for encaustic, and that'll be good too, since you do all the different mediums. Somebody else had asked in the chat about, do you do watercolor and go more contemporary rather than realistic? And also I noticed somebody had asked, can you do watercolor and use the sealing method, the way you seal it over that and then do other mediums on top? So those are good things.
Yeah, those are good questions. Definitely you could do encaustic over watercolor. You could do acrylic over watercolor. You could do cold wax and oil over watercolor. So yeah, watercolor is a great medium. But I know that everybody out there has like their favorite medium, and keep in mind though that it's like I'm not a technique person. I always downplay the technical part of everything because my entire school is devoted toward helping artists understand like the best way for you to find your personal voice is not to take 1,000 different technique workshops. It's just not going to help you. In fact, you're going to get so confused, right, Lisa? Has that happened to you?
Yes.
And I say that because I've done it myself. And, it's not that you're not totally excited when you go to the workshop, but then you come home and it's like, okay, I just learned a brand new technique. It's great. It's fun. But, my painting still sucks. So the whole thing is that technique is just a tool, but color and
Just like
design,
automatic drawing, right?
right?
Yes.
Yes. And so color and design are like, it's gives you the language to use the tool. So think of every workshop you've taken about technique. You learn something new, great. That is a tool like a wrench, a hammer, nails, you throw it into your toolbox and that's great. But color and design, understanding color and design is your blueprint. It's your language to make your own personal blueprint. So if you don't have that first and you've only got a toolbox full of the wrench and the hammer and the nails and the saw and all that kind of stuff, great, you've got a lot of tools, but now what are you going to do with them? And to be consistent in your studio, to love your process, to learn what process we really like to keep repeating again and again and incorporate that into your studio time, which is essential in finding your personal voice. It's going to come down to really understanding color design, right? And so I hear a lot of people saying, oh, can you show me this technique? Can you show me this technique? Sure, I can, but that's not even important. Like drippy paint and cold wax and oil, sure, I can show you that, but what if you don't like what are you going to do with it once you're done,
And you can do drippy paint in every medium, right?
Yeah, you can. And so I like to look at it in the reverse. And I like to think of like breaking down the painting process into the very smallest molecules, and which come down to the design elements and principles, and understanding what they are, doing the deep dive into each one of those first. And then when it comes to painting, the technique will follow. Like, if you experiment and have that additive experimentation, you'll actually learn the technique that you need to say what you want to say. You don't have to take a workshop. I mean, sure, workshops can help you with getting motivated and all that kind of stuff, but it comes down to you really just showing up in your studio and getting into this automatic drawing thing and playing. And
yes.
Yeah, so
Kathleen said that she finds automatic drawing turns into automatic shapes for her, and that's really a cool concept. And Susan said it's not the medium, it's the concepts that are important, and that is what you teach us in your school, right? You teach us all the different tools and how to use them so we can do it without thinking.
Yeah, the idea, the ultimate goal, I think, for all of us is that if we can break the what's kind of a complicated, art process down into the smaller parts, so that each smaller part becomes like, okay, I just put my key in the ignition. Okay, I put my foot on the gas pedal. Okay, I just put my seatbelt on. All those things become automatic, so that the whole painting process becomes, it's never going to be completely like without getting stuck at times, but it becomes much more natural. You don't have to think about it. The things you love the most about the way you paint and the things you love should need to become as second nature as possible, so that you don't have to think about it. And sure, like any language, in the beginning, it is tough. And I've heard students say, oh my gosh, if I have to think about all this stuff, I feel stuck. But that's because you're trying to do too much at a time. And so I think that, sure, if you guys want to watch what I do, some of it's slow going, right? But the idea too is that I want you guys to join me, and I want you to be painting with me, because then, I can't feature you, I can't spotlight you like Lisa does on those app calls, but still you can be telling us what you're doing. And the point is to kind of make this a fun time where we share in the community together.
Yes.
So, want to thank all of you guys, for being here.
There was one question I did want to ask that was in the chat. She asked do you ever have to warm up the cold wax medium? But you don't ever want to warm up cold wax, right?
Yeah, no, you really, room temperature, you don't ever want to heat it with anything. So that's why if you're working on top of an encaustic painting with cold wax and oil, you're not looking at heating it anymore. Now, there are artists who've done that, but I can't stop people from doing it. If they want to risk their health, that's up to them. But that's definitely not a good, safe practice, even if you've got great ventilation.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure people heard that, because it's not good.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So thank you all for joining us both, and joining Lisa and me. And we'll hopefully see you next Monday. And be sure to let your friends know that we're here, and we're happy to paint with you. So thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye.